You can put it in the presenter.
So you can see my screen now.
Yes, we can see. But before we start, let us check if we have Puban and Dipendra on the list. Okay, Puban just...
Irene,
Yes?
can we record this? And because my dealer not all can attend, so I can share this presentation to my photo dealer.
Okay, no problem. Okay,
Okay,
just a
thank you.
moment. Welcome. Puban, are you there?
Yes, Irene. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, do we have enough people already, or most of the people are here?
Maybe we wait for 3 minutes more and then we start.
All right, okay. So let us know when we are about to begin, okay? Patsy is doing the presentation. There is another meeting. Submit.
Patsy, we can start now with Patsy.
Okay. 2 seconds because the fire just passing by. Quite noisy here. Okay, good afternoon. It's Patsy here. So thanks for your coming today for the dealers training, just kind of the refreshment on the lighting as well as the hardware. So for the coming 1 hour to 1.5 hours, not more than that, try to cover a little bit on the lighting as well as the hardware. So for the first section, which will be the lighting and color, I put it, this is the best practice today. So what we do, so in my presentation, I will try to cover a little bit on the lighting history. I won't go into deep because I try not to more than 30 minutes, otherwise we always over time. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so um, if you look at the product portfolio from X-Rite, we used to have the one called light bulb, and then we are very of ourselves, we have the lighting system to sell to the customer, because from the old Macbeth time, we have the Macbeth lighting system. So if you look at this timeline, you can see Macbeth lighting is a long history since 1915. Because of the Norman Macbeth, he started the company called Macbeth Lighting Company. And then from 1927, he patented the filtered tungsten halogen daylight, which is we utilize it in our spectral light from version 1, version 2, version 3, as well as version QC, which has the best daylight simulator. After that, he also worked on the fluorescent daylight, which is on our old Judge 2, which is the patent 7 phosphorus fluorescent daylight as well. So instead of the filtered tungsten halogen daylight, so this is utilize the fluorescent lamp to simulate the best daylight. So compare against the others in the commercial side, which is by using the free, that one is using 7. But I'm very sorry that this daylight is no longer available, because right now we move to judge the daylight or the system back to OEM by the very right. So if you look at the history, we still maintain the one is the tungsten halogen filter daylight, which is the best daylight simulator in the market, as well as if you look at the next one, sorry, it used to be called the industrial benchmark on the daylight. That's why we're selling numbers and numbers of the light box in the last 20 over years, actually more than that, because of the daylight simulator. So I won't go through everything, but I will just show you some pictures about our lighting. So if you look at the lighting color science, we always talk about the daylight simulator, because we cannot always rely on the natural daylight from your windows. That's why we need to have something simulate, which is our SPL. They do the best because they provide the best daylight in the artificial shots. So if we look at the graph on the right side, the left top corner, which is the CID D65, the actual daylight, the noontime the northern sky noontime daylight, how it's supposed to be, and then by using the SPL QC, SPL free, which is on the left bottom corner, you can see how best we can simulate, compare against the right side, which is all those fluorescent commercial daylight lamp. They will have a spike and the peak, but it's not really not just a smooth continuous energy. Okay, so take a look on the history on the spectral light. I try my best to look for the old pictures from the internet, so you can find it. We have something like the Macbeth SPL, which is on the left hand side. Compare against what we have it right now is not much difference, but mainly they changed the board, the circuits, so no matter what, they will always have the D65, D75 or D50 daylight simulator. So after that, we move to the Macbeth SPL2. So from the switch, we become another rung button on off. And then we'll move into the SPL3. I believe most people familiar with it because before we have the SPL QC, it was in the market at least for more than 15 over years. Under the SPL3, there is a tiny little guy here, which is the Spectro Light Junior. So it's a small junior version of the SPL, which is about 2000, at around 2001, we launched this product. So some people may saw this one before. No matter what, we can't service, and then we cannot support because the daylight, the fluorescent lamp inside, we no longer have any stock. So covered by the green light, right now on the SPL or spectral light, this is the only model we're selling, which is the SPL QC. So this will give you a brief history on our spectral light box. Okay, next. So instead of the spectral light, we also have the judge. So the judge is also from Mr. Norman Macbeth. He worked on the fluorescent 7 phosphorus fluorescent lamp. So we do have the collapsible one, collapsible, as well as the Judge 2, and then we're moving into the Judge QC. So this is the little bit small history, and then just give you kind of the information what is our previous light box. So if you look at something like they say Macbeth lighting, the Judge 2, so it looks almost the same. The only thing is certain fluorescent lamp or the accessory is no longer available. So besides the Spectro light as well as the Judge, we do have some other other lighting product in the past. We used to have the Examo light. I believe we still have it, but we have the limited choices. As well as we also have kind of the soy sauce. So the soy sauce is kind of the lamp, but they provide the best daylight simulator as well, because they will utilize the same tungsten filtered tungsten halogen lamp technologies. Okay, so this is a very short history about the Macbeth lighting. If you're interested to look a little bit more, you also can come back to the application team, because me and Irene should have some old catalogs as well as the menu. But no matter what, history is already past. Focus on what we have, which is the SPL QC and the Judge QC. Okay, so after the little bit history, I will try to cut down my presentation in 3 main categories. So under the overview, first thing I would like to talk about the type or the source of the type of the lighting. After that will come with the impact on color, as well as the best practice today, what we can do. So what kind of the lighting, the types we have? Actually, we do have the incandescent, the halogen lamp, the fluorescent lamp, the compact type fluorescent lamp, high intensity discharge lamp, as well as the LED. So if we talk about the incandescent, actually the incandescent is no longer available in the market because of the energy. It's not environmental friendly, I put it this way. So if you look at it, so how it works, it makes light by heating up a metal filament wire to a high temperature until it glows. So when we invented the light, yes, this is the best, because in the cold region, you light up, you get the heat, you get the infrared, you generate the heat to keep your indoor feel warming. But now we talk about energy saving. So when the people look at it, they will put it, the power consumption on the light is high, but they emit the heat rather than the visible light. That's why, followed by different countries in the world, it started to phase out the incandescent. So I won't go into deep what is the regulation and the efficiency, but if you look at the timetable over there, actually it's already totally been removed from the market. That's why when you look at our SPL as well as the Judge, they are no longer putting on the incandescent light bulb, but what they're putting on, they utilize the halogen lamp. So this is, if you're interested, because the presentation will share to you, then you can have a look what's the regulation and the efficiency from US as well. So they have no compulsory, they say you cannot use it, but it's not recommended, because in terms of the energy level they consume is high, but they don't get enough light intensity. That's why if we move to another type of the light source, halogen source, which is now is the something, we replace the incandescent in the light box. So they have a very similar characteristic like the incandescent. So it's very little in the blue energy and then increasing in the yellow and the red energy. So when you're heating it up, this one is about 3065 Kelvin absolute temperatures compared to the incandescent 2856, which is about within the 250 Kelvin's tolerance. That's why now most of the light box if you look at it, when they talk about the incandescent, actually they changed to the halogen lamp. So next one, I just talk about how it works. So it's similar to the incandescent lamp. They come with the tungsten filament, but they also included inert gas and a small amount of the halogen. That's why compare against the incandescent, it can last for longer, and then it can operate under the higher temperature than the standard incandescent lamp. Also, they consider, because they use the energy level is similar, but they generate more visible light rather than heat. That's why they call it more efficiency rather than the incandescent. Next, after the incandescent, the halogen lamp, what next we used to see, so which is the fluorescent. We may talk about the T12, T8. So you may heard about what is T8 and T12. So I put a remarks on my presentation here. You can see it. So when we talk about the T12, which is the diameter for the fluorescent tube, so which is 38 mm diameter or 1.5 inches, compared to the T8, which is 1 inches. No matter what, this is the first generation, cannot say first, the earlier generation on the fluorescent tube. So they also based on, I guess, discharge the lamp, use the electricity to excite the mercury. It doesn't matter how it works, but I will give you the color rendering. So, which will be the light source to be used on the T12? Mainly is the CWF. So if you look at the CWF, the cool white fluorescent, so this is one of the lamp there under the T12 category. So for the advantages, disadvantages, I don't think I go into it because we not really care about that too much. The only thing is the time usage is slightly shortened, okay? Then compared to the T8, T8 is most of the lamp we are utilized in our light box. That's why in terms of the diameter, it's only about 1 inch, 25 millimeters. So it's developed under the 1990s. It called it higher quality fluorescent lamp because they have a higher CRI index. So compared to the CWF, the CRI, which is about 82 to 100, which is the good example for all the TL. So if you look at the TR83, 84, 85, as well as the ultra lumen, the U30, U35. This is most of the light source is fit into these categories. So if you look at the textile market, most people slowly change from the TR80, change it from the cool white fluorescent into U30 or U35 because this one have a better CRI index on the color rendering. So if you move to the next slide, you can see this is how the spectral power distribution on each of it. So if you look at the TR84, U30, compare against the fluorescent 11 and fluorescent 12, when I'm mapping all together, they have very similar on the peak. So what it means, they are utilized the same for the phosphorus. The only difference is because of different company, they are using different level or different amount of the phosphorus in the fluorescent lamp. But no matter what, when they put it side by side, the color will look very close. Compare against to the CWF, CWF is really lower in the red energy. That's why when you look at certain red color objects, it doesn't give you the feeling on the red is not there because it's not enough energy to push up the red reflection. Okay, so instead of the fluorescent, of course we do have something called the compact fluorescent lamp, but we seldom use this one into the light box. This is really a kind of efficient energy because they can give you much more light intensity and more stable compared to incandescent and the conventional T12 fluorescent lamp. But the only drawback is they really need they really need to take 3 to 5 minutes time to get the full brightness. That's why if you look at the light box, even we claim this one is a better lamp, but we won't put it on it. Okay, this is only one of the example on the warm light compact fluorescent lamp example. So they do have kind of the peak similar to the fluorescent lamp. That's why it doesn't matter this is the compact version or this is the fluorescent lamp, they look quite alike. The only drawback is they need to really have some times, then they can get the full brightness. Okay, so after all this, now we move into the LED. I believe most people, they talk about the LED, okay, when X-Ray can have the LED light bulbs. So the LED is so popular in the market. Why we don't utilize it? So, okay, first of all, let's take a look how it works. So, the light output of the individual light emitting diodes is a small component to incandescent or the CFF lamp. Multiple are often used together. So if you look at it, so the LED is a single tiny pit. They emit the light. So if we look at the example on the presentation, I can have a rainbow color on my LED strip. I will have different type of the colors on my LED rings. So when you put it on the light bulb or on the fluorescent tube format, they also multiply a number of the pops on that. So it's not a single one, but why we still like to have it, because compared to the other format of the lighting, LED use the less energy and then they give you the highest luminance. So if you look at it, they put it one higher power LED chip, they can use it in some commercial LED light can be emit 7,000 lumens while it's only using 100 watts. That's why it's really a light energy saving lighting. The only thing is, if you look at the graph, we have different type of the LED source. They will have different energy, and then compared to different white LED in the market, you can see most of them, they really high on the blue area, and then they will be very low on the red region. So what it means, do I really get something similar to the daylight? Probably no. That's why even CIE try to standardize the LED lighting, but because of the LED development is so fast, we need to figure out which one it can be have the best fit to the standard. So until now, of course, some of the manufacturer they already created, but we're still arguing. So we put it, not say we cannot use the LED, but we rather to wait until this is really get it to be standardized and stable. So just give you some example on the commercial LED you can always see. So you can put it on the bulb format, on the tube format. You can have different color of the LED, which is you won't find it in the fluorescent tube, you won't find it in the halogen lamp, but under the LED, because they just emit on the particular peak of the colors, of the light colors. That's why we can utilize it for innovation decoration format. For this, okay, for this line, I just give you some kind of the summary. So what is the light source performance? Compare incandescent against the fluorescent lamp, the compact fluorescent lamp, as well as against the LED. So if you look at the luminance, the lumens, which is the intensity of the light, 16 watts of the LED, they already can provide 150, they can provide about 2000 to 2008 lumens. So compare against what you have it from the incandescent, I need to up to 150 watts. So that's why this is really considered as energy saving lighting. The only thing is, as I mentioned before, yes, it is really energy saving, but at the same time, when we really look into deep on the LED, they do have environment pollution from the components. So that's why it's left and right. whether I should go for light energy saving or I should look for environment pollution minimalization to reduce this. So that's why this is still kind of the argument. So no matter what, LED is always good because they have the long timeline. So if you put it roughly every day, I turn it on for 3 hours, this one can use more than 10 over years. So by record, some people that say they can use the LED up to 40 over years. But we cannot prove it right now. This is only based on the calculation. And the LED we can utilize on the innovative product because they are so tiny, they can combine different colors into the one single format. That's why it's widely used in this, in the lighting decoration. So besides of so what will be the disadvantage? So LED lamps now is comparatively compared to the fluorescent lamp still higher in price. It's because of to get it to stability and then the high quality, high performance compared to you just get a normal fluorescent lamp is still high. That's why some people will look at yes, high energy efficiency, but the cost is still high. At the end, we put it, the technology is improving rapidly and new energy efficiency consumer LED lamp have been announced from the lighting industry greatest producer. So we put it here, but if you look into the market, not just these three, a lot of local one, China one is coming up as well. That's why it's quite difficult to control as well as to standardize what LED will want to put it into the standard lighting. LED is widely used, but once we want to control it, we need to set up a regulation, the tables, the data to monitor it. So this is the challenge on the LED. Okay, just give you some update from the CIE. CIE, when they have the meeting on 2018, they release or they update the CIE 015, the standard. They do already mention about the different LED type. So they have 9 or 10 category already been released. The only thing is we need to find out what is the compatible physical source. Don't forget, most of the CIE, the standard when we divide it or when we develop is based on the mathematic models. So that's why we need to still find out, who can provide and stabilize what kind of the physical lamp can fit into this standard. Okay, I know most people may concern, so why we put on, we can have the LED lamp into our SPL as well as the judge. So this one is a special requirement from Walmart. Actually, Walmart, they changed all the store lighting specification from the CWF into LED. So not any LED, but will be a specific one because they have a specific LED tube which is developed by GE as a special source for all the Walmart store. So that's why it had to become from GE. And then why so different? Why they utilize the GE one? This one as a CIE standard. This is not a CIE standard. It's only Walmart standard. So make sure this one is only the Walmart standard. Why I put it in this way? Because Walmart specifically to work together with the GE and then to develop this special LED tube to put it into the light into their store. So what's the difference compared to other LED? If you look at the graph below here, most of the LED is like on the red, on the blue color, the curve. But on the GE one, they will be very strong in the red region. So to give the red color looks more brilliant. So that's why if you compare other LED in the market, you will see the color rendering on the red, it looks totally different because they have the tri-gain technology. I cannot explain much, but this is all the information I find out from the internet. So you can see that if you look at the two strawberry pictures from the left and the right, So under the Tri-Gain technology, under the GE developments, they push up the red energy. So if I'm in the store, higher in the red energy, so somehow the feeling from the consumer or from the customer is feel more warm, as well as whatever I look at it, it looks more brilliant. So that's why I want to specify this is only the Walmart store light specification. This is not the CIE standard. But no matter what, when you work with the software, we do have the illumination table on this. That's why when you code it out from your IQC or from your iMatch, you can call this same LED lighting for comparison purpose. So I put the two links specifically. This is for the SPL QC and the Judge QC, how they mount the LED lamp into the light box. They put a special remarks. You need to be labeled down. I cannot show you here, but if you're interested, please click on the link under the YouTube or even under the xrite.com. You can find how to video to put on this particular GE lamp into the light box. Why had to be the label down? Because don't forget, most of the LED light, they provide higher light intensity. So it means they are much brighter than other fluorescent lamps. So in order to reduce the intensity within a small light box, so we need to be flipping to let it to flip it down. So shining on top and then to tune it down rather than this is the direct lighting from the light box. So then we can somehow to reduce the intensity. Okay, I hope you do understand my meaning. If you have question, probably you can put it into the chat room first. Later I answer you. Okay. So after the type of the light source, I would like to move into the impact on colors. So what is impact on colors? If you look at a common light source in the market, we have daylight, we have the incandescent A, we have the UVA, we have the horizon, we have different CW fluorescent lamps, as well as the LED. So why it affecting our colors? Okay, let's move on first. Daylight. We all talk about the daylight all the time. I want to specific to remind everyone what is the D75, D65, and D50. Because D75, which is the northern sky daylight, so they are higher in blue energy, less in red. Compared to the D65, which is what we call the average northern sky daylight, they are more balanced in the red and the blue energy. And then this is widely used in the textile, automotive, plastic, and paint. Compared to print and imaging and print packaging market, they will go into the D50, which is the noontime sky daylight. So they are not facing to the north, but they're averaging the global energy, so it doesn't matter. This is the noontime daylight, so I collect it and average it. Hi.
Your presentation did not move. Maybe you were out of the presentation mode. We got report you're still in the Walmart. The participant is still seeing the Walmart.
Okay, so
no, I see the visual color evaluation slide.
Yeah,
I also actual presentation.
Visual color evaluation. Just we are on the right slide.
this evaluation, so you see the different phases of the daylight, right? Yes.
Yes.
Just a moment, because we have some participants who say, Cherry, can you see now the updated presentation mode?
It's probably related to the internet, the connection of the speed.
Yeah.
Because just now I got locked out by myself, so they will pop up, okay, you may have the slow internet or whatever. So sorry about that, but no matter what, presentation for that. Okay, so I just come back to the phase of the daylight. So we also have the D50. D50 is widely used in the graphic art. So don't ask me why, but put it in this way. This is all conforming for the ISO standard. Okay, so the last one called the horizon. Horizon is only the early morning sunrise or the sunset daylight. So it will be used in the automotive, but not in other industry. So why colors will be impacted by the daylight? So think about it. If in the textile market, we have the supplier, we have the specifier. So what you expected and what you received, you need to look under the light box. So if you don't have a proper lighting control, so are you looking at the right color? So it's simply something like this. Which one is the real product color you're looking at? And talk about the red. So if you look at the red on top, I have different type of the red. I have the pink, I have the strong red, I have a little bit dark red. So it will be related to what lighting you are utilized, and then to affecting how you perceive the colors. So that's why color rendering, it changed from different lighting. So I'm moving on. This is one of the color rendering problems under the retails, how they affect. So this is from the US, which is one of the colleagues from US. They collect the pictures, they take the pictures from different boutique, which is the same boutique but different branches. But because they apply different lighting, how you see the yellow jacket it looks like. They have similar setup. So they have the yellow jacket next to the blue stripe jacket. But because of the lighting, because of the light intensity, it makes you feel the color looks different as well. That's why if you come to the supply chain, I'm sitting at Singapore, you're sitting in India, you're sitting in Philippines, or you're sitting in Vietnam. If we don't control the light, how we can guarantee the light or the sample we're looking at is the same? That's why how to judge the color more effective. We need to make sure the light box have to be correct. That's why I moved to the last section, which is called the best practice today. We try to follow some of the standardization. So if you look at the ATCC evaluation procedure 9 for the textile materials, they will have a very detailed the guideline to guide you, say what you need to do. So like the observer need to perform the Ichikawa test to make sure they are not color brightness. After that, you need to run on the Munsell hue test to make sure you have the normal coloration or the superior colorations. And then in terms of the evaluation, if you're judging colors, you should be less than 16 points or even less. And then from the lighting point of view, you also need to make sure your daylight simulator has to be at least on the B, C, or even better on the daylight quality. Otherwise, you're not using the correct lighting. How can you judge the color correct? So after that, make sure your filter, your luminaire have to be properly maintained and clean. We do see some customers say, I have the SPL, I change the lamp quite frequently, but when we look at the colors still different. Because when we look into it, sometimes it's the dust on top, sitting on top of the filter. So because the light intensity is lower, they're affecting how you see the color. That's why a small practice, a small tiny thing also affecting how we see colors as well. That's why in the evaluation in the standard, we also mention about the proper maintenance and the cleaning on the light box is needed. And last, when we look at the color or evaluating the colors, we should have the correct intensity. That's why we talk about the foot candle, we talk about the lux. In the next slide, I just give you some information about, okay, what kind of the lux we can use when we look at the critical colors. Normally, we use 100 to 125 foot candle, which is about 1,000 to 1,300 lux. But if you look at the darker colors, you may need to increase the foot candle because we need to increase the brightness, then we can see the darker color clearly. That's why the light box need to adjust the adjust different lux. Why we have such a need? Because according to the standard, different type of the materials or different shape of the materials, we should use slightly different intensity to make sure we can see the color correctly. So give you some remarks, what is the lux, what's the lumen, and what's the foot candle. Put it in a general is 1 lux equal to the lumen per square meter. 1 foot candle is equal to 1 lumen square foot. In a simple way, we say 100 foot candles is equal to 1070 lux, 76 lux. So that's why under the Lightbox certificate, we do mention the foot candle and the lux. So if you need the information, you can convert it by yourself. Okay. So this is give you some brief information on it. Oh, by the way, the last thing is, if I want to increase the lux, let's say my Lightbox cannot change the lux. I don't have the switch to turn it to be dimmer or stronger the light. Move the sample closer to the lamp. You also increase the lux. So this is a small use you can utilize. Okay, when you're working on the Judge QC, because Judge QC you cannot adjust the light intensity level. So besides of the light box, another thing we need to be pay attention is how we assess the samples. So in the ABCD we have different angle, except B and C, either 0.45 or 45.0 is the same, is the recommended method for assess your sample. Other than that, it's all not recommended, because you don't see the color correctly, you may have the shadow or whatever. But no matter what, why we use the B and C? B will be based on your height. It doesn't matter how tall you are. No, I will say it. So when you're putting on the B, you can move in the sample inner to the light box or moving out the light box to adjust based on your height. But while you're working on the C, which you have the 45 stand, you need to make sure you need to stand in a proper way, then you can get a correct reading geometry. Okay, add on for the communication, the best practice. So color communication advice. So most people need to set up the standard operation procedures. I can tell you most of the brands or the specifier, they have their SOP, which is clearly to inform how to visual check the samples. They will mention about what is the color standard and the sample preparation, like the size, the orientation, and the storage, as well as what is the visual assessment method, which is the reading condition and the geometry. Condition means what light source they use. So I'm the one I use P65. Probably you're the one using U30 as your primary light source. Geometry is I prefer to be on 0.45, or I will have a 45 stand table to put it on, utilize the 45.0 geometry to look at the sample. As well as they will also request most of the operator need to be evaluate and report the test result, which is the Munsell test, and then have to be less than 16 points as well. So the second advice is when you do the evaluation record, which is we are not commonly do it, not used to do it. So I will just put, everything is standardized. Then we just look at the color, we visualize, we check the color under the light box, and then we do some judgment. But in a good practice, we should be also putting on, okay, this is the sample I'm looking at, and then what light box I use. Because some of the company, they have multiple light box. The service may not be on the same time. So from light box to light box, if they have variation. Today I'm using light box 1. I look at it, the color looks much lighter. Probably because this is new lamp, I change. So the intensity is higher. Then I make it feel the sample is lighter. But when I move to the second light box, if I don't know if how come suddenly
Hello, Patsy? Hi, Patsy, can you hear us? Okay. Patsy, are you back? Hello, Patsy.
Probably is connecting problem.
Probably, yeah,
Also
she
could-
might be having some connectivity issues.
Yeah, she's still on. I can see her name. Yeah.
Sample when I look at it is a month ago.
Yeah, she's back.
All right, she's back. Okay, she's back.
Oh, it's me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you, Patsy. Please go ahead.
Okay. So, it's the same concept. We just make sure we're utilized. We just record down whatever we notice that, then we can have a better comparison. And then all the equipment need to be calibrated and certified. I see myself a little bit slow, so I need to run a bit faster. And then all the observer need to be run the calibration efficiency tests. So next advice, try to utilize the simple, consistent words to describe the color difference. Simple and consistent. So everybody will utilize the same terminology. So sample is lighter, is redder, need to be darker, need to be greener. So standardize the lighting terms, not say someone will use, okay, I want to be lighter. This one is too light, this is too dark. So one is too light, one is lighter. Which one you want to be utilized? Try to fix into the standard terminology to make it everybody use the same. I can tell you some of the specifiers, they do run the test, or they also request the suppliers to use the same terminology to make sure it's aligned to each other. That's why terminology is also one thing, because when we describe colors, everybody has their own terms. So if you can standardize it, you also reduce the limitation, reduce the confusion. So no matter what, use the constant vocabulary to describe the color difference, and also to mention the most, to pronounce the color different elements should be mentioned first. So which one is the most critical one mentioned first, rather than you just need to follow lighter, redder. Maybe this is more red, and then come with lighter. Then put on the redder first. So we talk about all these. So no matter what, controlled lighting is important. So that's why we talk about, okay, more light source can we choose is the best. Able to control and calibrate the UV or control the light intensity is important. Sensor to monitor the light output, the lamp, the temperature variation is also important because we want to record down. And then they have the ability to adjust the light output, which is the lux level, as well as we can utilize the USB connection for the reporting. That's why we put it, SPL QC is the latest product we want to promote. If you look at all the old light box, which is from the SPL3, SPL2, we never have this kind of the features. So why we have this kind of features? Because we want to follow or standardize the way how the people do the visual assessment. I know it's not a common practice, but it depends on how we can put it into our standardization. So there's a small link here, they call the usage video. I know we received some questions from the dealer, okay, how I reset it, how I set the template or whatever. So nowadays, X-Ray, we put in all these in the video format. If you follow this YouTube link, you can find all the videos. So let me see, can I go into this one? Just quickly show you. Able to go to the YouTube. Okay, let me see how can I share my YouTube first. I stop sharing, and then
Yes,
I will share my YouTube files. And try it how to settings, settings, or whatever.
Patsy.
We have
Hello.
Yes, Patsy, just wait. They
Patsy,
cannot hear you.
someone trying to join into the meeting, but he said that somebody has to let him in. Is it possible? Is it true?
Yes.
So Mr. Naveen Juneja is trying to get into it, but he is not getting the authorization. Can you let him in?
The
No,
checkbox
you
you
have
can
to
see.
come. He has to join again.
Check it. Let me see. Okay, so if you can, you help me to check to allow them, that's all. Okay, so this is the last piece of the presentation. I make it very simple one. For sure, it won't be too deep in every elements of the light box, but I just give you a kind of the brief information, and then if you want to know more, you can come back to us, or you can always go to watch the video, which will give you more idea what's the light box as well. So if you need to have the illuminant information, the how we can promote the product, to know a little bit more, we do have some kind of the small booklets we can share to you as well. So for the first section for today, I utilize almost 50 minutes for the lighting. So after that, we'll come along with the second section, which is the hardware. So let me close my one, stop my sharing first. Yeah. Then we can carry on for the second part of the training today, which is the hardware. So Irene, you want to continue? You sharing your presentation?
Okay. But before we conclude, that's the conclusion of the light presentation, right? We have one question here. It says, Spectrolight QC and Judge QC approved by which buyers for textile and other application?
Okay. This one I can share with you later because I really taking out all this information from the presentation because we have too many. If you look at the Spectrolight QC and the Judge, most of the textile specifier, they do specify the Spectrolight as well. Spectrolight, Judge, it depends because as long as they are outdoor, out, outdoor clothing or whatever, or even on the on the sofa on the IKEA like this, they also utilize the SPL because they request to have the best daylight, which is the D65. But when you talk about the Judge, because they may not utilize the daylight as the first illuminance, they rather to use the U30, U35, TR84 as the first illumination, then they may go for the Judge. So we do have a list of some specifier we can share to you later on as well. So maybe I will update on my presentation and put it there. Okay. Do we have the LED selection option in the software? Yes, we do. So if you look at the IQC software, we already have most of the LED, which is according to CIE standard. We don't have the physical source, but we do have the illuminant table for that, as well as the Walmart one. So if you go to the IQC, you can look for the T8, which is the Walmart's LED lighting. Okay, so if we have time later on, I can show you the IQC, okay? So first, I pass my control to Irene. Then at least we can focus on the portable handheld Spectro. After that is the benchtop and the rig and jigs. Okay, thank you, Irene.
Okay. Can everyone see my presentation? Patsy, can you see it?
Yes, Irene. Portables.
All right. Okay, thank you. All right, okay. Thank you, Patsy, for that very good knowledge on the light sources, especially, and on the latest light booth that we have. So for this moment, we will pause for a while. We will proceed first with the portable handhelds, and I will be doing the presentation. This is an update of what we have with regards to our portable equipment. Okay. So portable allow you to measure variety of unique surface, bringing you the device or your sample to achieve a consistent and accurate color measurement. So this is an ideal solution for also to color professionals who are always on the go. So before we start with our current offering, I think we need to understand also some of the legacy instrument that we have in the market, because some of those has to be replaced already. So you can see here in the slide a very short, it's really short, discussion about the legacy product, just to give you a feeling, just a picture. Okay, so this is how the legacy product looks like. So for those who are very familiar with the X-Rite old model, we call it the 500 series, and they are Spectro densitometer. So this one is basically a densitometer, and this one is a
Your
Spectro
slide is not changing,
densitometer.
Irene. Your slide is not changing. Yeah.
It's not changing?
Yeah.
Okay, so well,
Irene, it's not in the presenter mode.
okay, just a moment. I need to share again. Wait, it's in the
Yeah.
presenter.
Yeah.
Is it
Thank you.
presenter mode?
Yes.
It's okay now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So as I said again, we have 500 series. This is this side. Cannot see?
Yeah. No, not on my desktop.
Not on your desktop. Okay, just a moment. How come you cannot show it not on your desktop? Just a moment. Let me do it again. It's on the presentation mode. Can you see now?
No, still not.
I can.
Alright.
Probably, okay, not shown in my desktop.
Okay. Okay, can you see now?
No, just see the ID circle only.
Maybe something to do with your connection, Steven.
Yeah, I can
Anyway,
see.
all right. Okay, I'm sorry about that. It's maybe related to internet connection. Maybe some are not refreshing on time. Presentation now.
Yeah, got it.
Okay, so I have to refresh. Okay, and then I'm going to move this to a presentation mode.
Sorry, Irene, can
Okay.
you? Yeah, wait, got it.
Got it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, as I said earlier, 500 series is one of the legacy product, and this is called the Spectro densitometer. So for those, for this number from 504 to 518 are densitometers, and 528 and 530 are spectrophotometers. So they are widely used in the printing market. And if you notice, this will be end of service by 2020 December. So I think for some of the customers who are still having this model, please convince them to upgrade now, because this will no longer be in service. So we have also another model that is still in the market. This is coming from the Swiss, made by the Swiss team from Switzerland. And we call it the Spectro I. And Spectro I also has three different levels. And the most popular one at the moment in the market is what we call the Spectro I. And this will also end of service in 2020. So please convince your customers to replace also the Spectro I. So replacing the Spectro I, we have what we call the exact model, and it has a family. So the family are composed of exact basic plus. Both of these units are densitometers, and then we have a full spectrophotometer. We call it the exact standard and the exact advanced. Now this below the spectrophotometer is also a densitometer. So it is a fully functional unit that control density and color. This above these two units that you see on above can only control density. And then we will move forward. What are the difference? Okay, so if you look at the features in terms of what this unit are capable of, So these are the basic functions or features. So you can see here the basic is really a basic, but you can connect this to a exact manager and data catcher to provide only color density measurement. So you can upgrade to exact basic plus, and exact basic plus you have more functionality, not just only density, but you also have some gray balance measurement. And then if you want to upgrade, you can upgrade also to exact standard. And then exact standard, you can see here suddenly the colorimetric measurements such as CIE, LAB, you have added option. But the Pantone Live support here, you can see is an optional. You can also upgrade to Bluetooth, and you can also upgrade this to a scan mode, and the scan mode will have additional software called Data Measure. And of course, the good thing about the exact is the ability to provide 4 types of measurement. We call it the M0, M1, M2, M3. We call it the no filter with D65 illumination, with a polarized filter, and with the advanced filter. Okay, so right now with the advanced software also, advanced unit, exact advanced, you can see here it has all the function open, and the Pantone Live support is still optional, and this is now a Bluetooth. It comes with a Bluetooth technology and also comes with the software. So what are the difference between the two? Because it's only the Bluetooth that are different. Exact Advanced has more functionality in terms of the control in the lab. Exact Advanced can provide you additional function in measuring your paper substrate. So if you want to include paper control, we have that features in the exact. Ink strength, so you can also check the quality of incoming raw material such as the ink. So exact is very extensive. It's not only for production control, but it's also for laboratory control. So moving on, so we have here back to densitometer. What is the difference between the exact basic densitometer and the exact basic plus? So you can see here the exact basic only have 2 aperture to choose. So you only have 2 mm or 4 mm, while the exact basic plus you have 1.5, 2, 4, and 6 mm. And one thing you will see also here, the exact basic does not have Bluetooth capability, so you cannot upgrade this to Bluetooth, but with exact basic plus you can also upgrade it to Bluetooth technology. And also we have also here another type, which is later on I'll give you more information. We call it the XP, for flexible packaging substrate. So when we say flexible packaging substrate, we are referring to plastic substrate, especially in the flexible market. So moving on, so just to highlight, okay, so those are the difference highlights of these two devices. So upgradable to higher exact models. So how do we fit this system? So let's say if you have an exact standard, it fits in all type of printing workflow, from specification to design and print media production and quality control. Actually also exact manager, exact advanced, exact standard and exact advanced, and it support all our X-Rite software, including Net Profiler, and it also can be upgraded for standard as a Bluetooth instrument, but for advanced, it's already a Bluetooth capability. Okay. So that is advanced instrument. Okay. Now, as I said earlier, there is another model called the Exact XP. These are for flexible film materials such as this. You can see here you can see these are plastic material. For those who are not in printing, if you notice those chips, potato chips, and you see those very colorful packaging, they are made of plastic substrate laminated to a foil. And when they have to do color matching on those plastic substrate using flexible ink, we call it the liquid inks, and we need to measure also the color on those plastic packaging. But for those plastic packaging, we found out that we cannot just use the standard, exact standard and exact advanced, because it's very, in terms of repeatability, in terms of the measurement, it's not very accurate. So because when you measure sample on top of the substrate, sometimes the user is not very mindful on how they position the instrument. They just position it anywhere without knowing that the measurement is no longer consistent. So we found out that in the plastic substrate, it's very sensitive to the position of the device because this instrument is very, very shiny. So that's why we found out that we need to have another exact model, and this is what we call the exact XP. So if you are going to a flexible printing market or printer, please consider XP, not just exact, standard, or exact advanced. So what are the difference between this exact advanced and exact standard? This is to help ink manufacturers in flexible packaging, because they have to make sure that they have a more consistent measurement, especially in MO and M2. But it does not support the M3, which is a polarized. So we remove the polarization filter here. And to be able to use this exact XP. So in terms of product positioning, so you can see here we categorize different user in the printing market. So for those who are only in a CMYK printing, so you can just offer them either exact or exact XP densitometer. But if the customer are into a CMYK and they have some spot color and they are compliance to certain PSO, then or G7, Japan color, or you have to work with an ink formulation software, then you have to upgrade them or make sure that you offer them either exact XP or exact standard. And you can see here there is an optional features such as the Bluetooth, Net Profiler, upgrade to scan, or even to Pantone Live license. Now, if you have a printer who wants to monitor multi-users, so sometimes you have a QC user, you have an R&D user, you can set up a profile inside the exact advanced. And as I said earlier, there is a part where you have to monitor incoming raw material, especially the paper and the inks. Then it's better to use the exact advanced or the exact XP advanced. So for the next week, we will going to have a more in-depth training on this device using the exact manager, using IQC print, and also using our IQC professional or basic. So we will do a very in-depth training on how to set up the instrument using our software, exact manager, and IQC basic, or all software that we have. Of course, price also will be different. So you can see here, as the features become better, the price will also be different from a densitometer to a full advanced spectrophotometer. So because especially in the printing market, they don't just measure color by spot like the industrial market. So industrial market, normally they measure color one spot. But in the printing, they have a strip of color, different colors, very colorful. So they need to measure this in a scan mode. So that's why the Exact is a very flexible instrument, because we can upgrade this into a scan mode by providing them an extra adapter. You can see here there is a base, where we call this the adapter, so we can switch the Exact into an Exact scan mode. So they can measure the color very fast, easier, but only using manual. So this is a manual way of measuring the entire color strip that can be up to 44 centimeter or so. So what are the included software? So for those who are going into the Exact device, for sure you will have the Exact Manager, you will have the data catcher. This is, as I said, this always goes with the densitometer. And then if you moving or upgrading to a scan mode, then Exact data measure will be included in our offering. So that is related to the printing market, where Exact is the replacement for 500 series and Spectro I. So we have another portable unit, and this portable unit is what we call the SP series and the Color Eye XTH. So SP series is made by X-Rite, which is a US base, and CXTH is a Greta Macbeth type of handheld instrument. So how does it look like? So you can see here, for those who have seen this before or not seen this before, this is how the Color XTX look like. So you can see here, it's also very handy, and normally they are used in the paint market. So we have sold quite a lot, especially in India, this model called Color Eye XTH. And again, this had been end of service since last year. So for those user, please convince them to upgrade this XTX device. So it's also a very good handheld, and this is the only handheld that is still in a xenon flashlight light source. Another one that we have, which is quite different from the XTH, because this one is using a different light source. So we call it the SP series. So there is 60, 62, and 64. And this is also end of service since 2019. So please, again, convince your customer to upgrade to this next model. We call it the CI6X series. So the CIX series have three main models. We have the CI60 for standalone QC measurement. We have the CI62 and the CI64. So this model will change the accuracy, okay, in terms of the repeatability, how well the measurement, how accurate is the measurement, can be also in terms of repeatability and reproducibility. So for the next slide is a specification. So you can see here that for CI60, we can only have 8 millimeter spot measurement. and the repeatability is a little bit higher or double than CI62, so 0.1. So why do we have this? Because you see, some measurement may not require higher accuracy, but they want to make sure that they understand where is the measurement error coming from, or the product in terms of the product that they produce. So they want to understand if the color is good enough or not good enough. And there are some people who just require just enough accuracy. So CI62, 0.10 is good enough because the eye cannot see any color difference that is less than 1.0. Normal eyes. Only the expert can see color difference that is higher than 0.10. And it's optional. There is no Bluetooth capability. And you can see here, we cannot use a net profiler also. Now for CI62, it has a higher accuracy in terms of white tile repeatability, and you can upgrade also to Bluetooth. And again, we have the CI64. If you notice, we have two types of CI64. One is UV. We call it the ultraviolet, or yes, it can measure the white paper whiteness. If you want to measure paper whiteness or textile whiteness, then this is the most appropriate, suitable device for the paper market and also for the textile market. And we have also another variant for CI64 if you want to measure a bigger spot measurement, which is about 14 mm. So when you consider portable instrument, please consider also the size of the spot measurement, whether you need a big or a small aperture measurement. So in terms of the different model again, so you take note, the CI60 does not have any connectivity to QC and formulation software. So we don't allow the CI60. Now CI62, you are allowed to do connectivity with all the extra QC and formulation software. So yesterday we talked about IQC, Color Cert, iMatch software. You can use either CI62 or you can use CI64 or CI64UB. But the good thing about this CI64 also, if you want to use this as a remote device, not connecting to the software, you can create a job function. So on Monday next week, we will also have another session where we will do a more in-depth demo on how to use the CI64 using the Color IQC or the Color iMatch and the utility tool. So next week, I hope for some of the dealers will join this presentation or this training. So going back on just this one is just to give you complete features of the product for those who have not seen this. Because during the demo, you may not be able to see the physical samples. So this is how the CI62-64 would look like. So we have a brochure. You can see the brochure on the different features, different functionality of the device. And if you look at in terms of specification, what kind of data this portable unit can provide are listed here. So it also has some color index. So color index also will depend on what type of sample that you will be measuring. So some may not be needed, some may be needed. So it depends on your requirement. But this can be set up using the utility tool that comes with this instrument. So we can on and off some of this functionality in the device. And you can see here also, it has the different illuminant type from incandescent to the fluorescent lamp. and charging time approximately is about 4 hours. Okay. So where do you use this? What are the application for this portable device? So we can use this in almost anything that is measurable. I always said anything is measurable as long as you understand what you measure and what is the purpose why you measure. So you can use this in any commercial coating. We can use this in plastic. We can use this in automotive, textile, and home furnishing. So some of these samples can be measured by this instrument called CI 62 or 64 or 60. So it's a very flexible device. Now, in the printing market, we have seen a special application because the printing market also have a foil. So they have to print directly to the foil. Exact device is not recommended if you have a printing that has metallic effects. So the recommendation is to use the CI 62 or CI 64. And we have already some of the customer that you see here are already using this device for print and packaging application. Okay, so going back to the CI64, it's jumping. So this is how the software interface will look like. So you can see here, it's a very colorful software interface. And this device is set for CI64. In CI64, you have this additional functionality called job. CI62 will not have this, so it does not have the job function. And this is how the appearance on what you see when you use this device. So you can see here the flexibility. We try to measure a chair, and you can handle the instrument quite easy. Okay, so it comes with a CX configuration tool called, which can be downloaded from our software, from our website. Okay, that's end my presentation. I think I need to bring this back to Patsy or to Namashi. Any question?
Okay. We answer most of the chat room.
Okay. Irene, can you please take them in the... Okay. All right. Okay. So I think... Okay. All right. I have some question here.
Yes.
Patsy?
Yes. We answered the question.
Yeah, already. All right. Okay. So we now move to the presentation. Going back to you, Patsy, or going to Namashi?
Going back to me first, which is the bench.
Yeah, bench top first. After the bench top, I will cover the rigs and jigs.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, you hold on. So before I go to the bench top, you can see my screen. I'm sharing my screen. Can you see?
Yes.
My screen. Okay, before I start the presentation on the benchtop, I just give remarks to everyone. So when you look at the handheld equipment, we have Exact, we have the CI series. So the Exact series, we can upgrade from different model. So you have a lower end model, we have the densitometer, we can have the basic plus, we have the standard, we can have the advanced. This one is all upgradable ones. But on the CI, we not available to upgrade. So if you get a CI 60 in the beginning, I'm sorry that now I want to go for the CI 64. Can we be upgrade? Cannot. So you need to get a new equipment. So it's no upgrade. It's not the same spec on the device. So that's why this is not upgradable one. Okay. So this is, I just want to put a remarks for everybody. So now, now jump into another section, which is also the spectrophotometer, but on the benchtop. So Irene mentioned about the handheld, the portable equipment. So besides of the handheld portable equipment, of course, we do have the benchtop. Okay, as usual, we will give you some kind of the legacy spectral history, which is from the old Great Tech time and from the old X-Rite. So if you look at the market, if you see something from the presentation, you see the BEV MS 2020 or the CI Color I 3000, 3100. So this is all the obsolete, even end of service device. So if you see something here, something from this picture at your custom place, this is always recommended to get them to upgrade into the latest one. Okay, I don't know whether we still have kind of the trade-in or not, but you need to go back to the sales, okay? But I just give you a kind of the picture. This is all kind of the old device. Don't come back to us, hey, Patsy, can we link the software with this device? I can tell most of the Spectro here, we cannot do it anymore because we take away the driver from the software because we don't want them to keep using the old Spectro, which all those are more than 20 over years. They're supposed to upgrade the device. So besides of the 2020, 3000, 3100, you may also see the 7000. So on the 7000 series, we have two. One is without the touchscreen on top, which is the CE7000. If you have the one on top, this is the CE7000A. So for your information, end service, the end of service is on end of this year as well. So that's why if you have the customer still running on the old 7008 or 7000, please try to recommend them to upgrade into the new Spectro. So compared to the 7000 in the previous model, I will put it at least on the 7000 you can do the transmission. That's why they come with the transmission compartments. So after the 7008, we do have the Color i5, Color i7. So i5, i7 is only depends on the specification difference, which is the accuracy, the reparability, and the inter-instrument agreement. For both of the equipment, the end of service will be end by another 2 years. So we stop the production on the 7008, i5, i7 on the same time, but the service timing for i5, i7 will still last for another 2 years because we still do have some parts of that. But sorry that 7008, 7000 we totally cannot service anymore. So please try your best to convert them into the latest Spectro. So this is from the old Greatech, all the legacy model. If you look at the X-Rite, definitely X-Rite used to be well known on the handheld equipment, but they do have their own benchtop. So you may see this tiny boy, they call the X-Rite Color Premier 8000 series. They have 8002, 8400. So this one all stock service for since long time when we merged the time. So the difference is also related to the specification. And then if you look at the software right now, we don't even have the connection on any one of these. So that's why if you look at the old model, so far we still only can support is the i5, i7 as well as the 7008 in the software. But sooner or later, we will always take it away from the software as well. So this is some update on the legacy model. So what is the latest model? We have it now. We all call CI7X series. It launched into the market since 2014, second half of the year. So we have different models now. So besides of the 76, 78, so now we have CI7 5, we have 76, 78, 7860. So it belongs to different range of the market. So if you look at the 75, the 7500 is only pure on the reflectance benchtop. So they not support for any transmission measurements. So if you have a customer, they're doing on the textile, probably it's an opaque sample, they don't need to measure a transmission, they can go to the CI7500. If you need to have some kind of transmission measurement ability, then you have to look for a higher level of the device, either the 7600, 7800 or 7860 as well. So if you look at the Spectro, so this is all the specification or the outline on the new model. So at least nowadays, all the new Spectro, they will be embedded net profiler. Because when you work with the old Spectro, they don't have the chips to store any data. But on the new Spectro, they come with the chips. That's why the net profiler can be stored inside on the device. So you can easily to say, okay, after run the net profiler, I want to connect to computer 1, computer 2, they still profile. You don't need to run 2 times a profile, or you don't need to copy the profile from computer 1 to another one, because the profile is embedded into the device. And they do come with the digital signatures. It means it's traceable, because we all talk about the data communication. We want to know which spectral you measure the samples. So it comes along with the digital signature. And on the CI7, same as this i5, i7, it used the same technology. We call instead of the tri-beam, this is the free-beam technology, simultaneous specular component, include and exclude. That's why we can utilize the measurements to calculate the correlation 60-degree loss for a single measurement, which is not available on the 7008. And they do have the multiple area of view, so it doesn't matter this is on the refraction, on the transmission except the 7500, you can utilize different size of the aperture for the measurements. So when I measure the reflectance, I want to measure that large aperture, small aperture down to 3.5, it can have a choice. On the transmission, we can do on the total transmission with different sizes of the aperture, except the direct transmission, it had to be fixed on the 25 large aperture. So we have more flexibility when I want to measure the transmission sample, which is have a tiny piece, because in the past, once you go for the transmission, or even on the competitor, you need to have a sample which is big enough for the large aperture as well. But now, the CI7, they're able to do it on the tiny one, which is down to 3.5, 6 millimeter, or 10 millimeter. Sample presentation. So we do have the sample one on the presentation. Okay, we have the sample presentation, which is you can have different rig and jigs to mount the samples. I put it this way. Then on the Spectro, we do the UV calibrated, and able to have a correct measurements. On top of it, on the UV calibration on the device, they will store the UV calibration data only for a month, just like the net profiler. Because UV calibration, the UV energy on the fresh lamp used to be slowly changing and fading out. So in order to get the correct measurement on one sample to have the correct UV energy, so now on the CI7, they will prompt you, oh sorry, your UV calibrate is already expired. You need to recalibrate before you perform the UV calibrated measurements. So it gives you kind of reminder, just like the net profiler. It also comes with the LED status membrane, which is same as the i5, i7, so you can easily to notify what kind of the setup on the Spectro, how you take the measurement as well. And then the last one is the dual measurement panel orientation. It can be horizontal, it can be tune it up or tune it down as well. Like you need to add on the extra rig and jigs to hold the device pop up or pop down. So what's the improvement on the 7X series compared to the older device? They have a much better benchmark white readability compared against the 7008, and even better than the data color device. It doesn't matter this is a 600 and 800, it has a much more repeatable reading on the white as well as the dark blue. We used to know that on the dark colors, when we measure the readability, it's always come from the noise. When we check on different spectral in the market, even on the benchmark 7008, they do have some kind of the readability issue. It's because of the light intensity, the fresh lamp intensity is vary from time to time. When they pick it up, it may not get a good readability. But in the new 7X series, because we're changing the multiple flashes, as well as the flash is very even, not too bright, not too dark, so we get a much repeatable reading on the dark sample as well. So this is a big improvement on the 7X series. Probably you may not aware of it, but when you're checking on the dark samples compared to others, sometimes you get how come another spectral today I read is RAB is 1011, another day is 911. It's because of the light intensity change. So on the 7X, the flashes is more stable and more repeatable as well. So for the wavelength stability, they approach the lock-in all channels for the factory setting. So sorry, this one I forgot what is related to, but this is the improvement on one of the improvement on the 7X. And then they have a superior agreement between apertures. So when you put on the samples from 3 to 5 to 25 millimeter, so it doesn't matter you use on 3.5, 6 millimeter, 7 millimeter, or 25, read on the same materials except plastic, you should get very close reading, which is less than 0.15 or 0.2 delta E. So this is really repeatable when you have different sizes of the samples, but you putting one on the same spectrum, you get the same reading as well. It also built in the instrument temperature and humidity sensor as a reporting function on the 7800 or above. So if you have a 75, 76, they don't come with it. That's why this is only the feature which is targeted for the global data communication when you want to have a tight control on the spectral. So this is one of the selling point, because you want to know how you measure the samples and what is the humidity, because all these will be affecting the sample's color. Diagnostic utility. So they come with the diagnostic utility. Once you open the box, you run the diagnostic, we can see the performance, as well as you can simply run the diagnostic to check the performance on the spectral. The only drawback I will put it here is after you run, you don't have the reader to read it. You still need to send it to X-Ray. You send it to myself, send it to Irene, or send it back to our headquarters. They can help you to read the file. Serviceability. So okay, now it's no longer the one of the improvement, because now it's most of the dealer can do and most of the service center can do it. And the last thing is the transmission reflection workflow. So we replace one of the aperture plate, become the barium sulfate plate, which is target for the transmission. When you need to make a total transmission, direct transmission, you need to close the aperture. Instead of putting on the white tile, putting on the barium, the plaque. So now we do have one is the barium plate. So you can have a closed aperture to make a complete sphere. If carry on, okay, what else we have? The improvement on the 7/8 series, which is the aperture plate detection. So they're using the preview camera to look at the aperture, and then they have the laser targeting on all the transmission samples. What's the laser targeting? Later on you will have one of the samples. You can see from the small picture that this is what we call the laser targeting. So even on your transmission samples, you can see where is the exact measurement area. So if you have a big sample you want to adjust, they can give you the laser targeting to tell you where is it. By the way, I will tell, okay, on this picture you can see the green laser very strong, but in the real time when you look at it, when you're under the lighting room, the green light will be quite light. So if you really want to use it, I may recommend you need to turn off the light, then you can see it clear. Active targeting. So on the active targeting, you can have the measurement spot to be, we call the reticle, to show you where is the actual measurement area. But this one had to be under the over illumination on a small area. So later on, I do have in the coming slide, you will see what I mean. Okay, backward data compatibility. So the 7/8 series is still using the 7008 as a centroid, so that's why the data is compatible. On the spectral range up to 7800 nanometer, 780 nanometer, which is available on the 7800 or above. If you have the 75, 76, sorry, it's still cut off on the 75 and 715 nanometer. So no matter what, this is only the aligned with the CIE recommendation only. We do have improved on the device is now we have free available UV cutoff filter. It used to become on 400 nanometer UV filter, but if you have the choice, say I need to run on 420 or 460, you can base on the optional the add-on to have these two extra filter to apply on your device to have the UV cutoff. Accessory storage. So long time ago, we always come back from the customer and say, oh, okay, you have the white tiles, you have the backtrap, but you don't have a really nice box to keep. So now we try to put it as a nice drawer. Then you can keep all the accessory under the device, rather than you need to have an extra box. Because sometimes we have two customers, they have multiple devices, and they mix up the white tile. So by using the accessory drawer, you won't mix up with any white tile or missing anything from the device. Unlimited. Okay, the next one is unlimited width of the transmission samples. This is one of the issue on our old 7008, even on the old model on the 3100. 3100, definitely if you have a big piece of the transmission sample, the plastic or the glass you want to put in, it's not able to put it in. You need to cut it into smaller one. Even on the 7008, because of the angle, they block, so you cannot just lock in the sample easily. But from the new design on the 78, the compartment area become more flexible. You can just lock into the bigger piece of the sample. And the last one is 3.5 millimeter aperture plate. So instead of when you measure very tiny samples, you can purchase the optional aperture plate, which is down to 3.5. But from my point of view, instead of using the 3.5, I also can utilize the 6 millimeter, and then by using the over elimination to measure the 3.5, because you will have a target point, the reticle, to show you where you're going to measure as well. So this is only the features on the 7X series in a summary, so which is what I being covered in the previous two slides. So what is the upgrade path from all the old devices, all the legacy device, into the latest CI7X series? So if you have the CI5 or you have the XR, the X-Ray 8200, so the upgrade path will be direct same spec. It will be go to the 7500 or 7600. It depends on the unit transmission, because the 7500 and 7600, they are sharing the same specification, which means the same reparability, same inter-instrument agreement, and even on the aperture size or whatever they come along will be the same. The only difference is 75 is pure for the reflectance measurement only. So if you go for the 76, you need transmission. You also need to purchase the optional transmission kit. If not, 75 and 76 were sharing the same specification. Okay, so that's why this is the direct upgrade model or replacement model. Okay, sorry. The replacement model for the CI5. So if you have the CI7, 7008, 7000 or 8400 from the old X-Ray model, so the upgrade path, it should be go to the 7800 or 7860. So the difference between the 7800 or the 780 is mainly on the inter-instrument agreement. 780 will have a much higher inter-instrument agreement, so it means it's it's down to 0.06. It means if you have 27860 sitting next to you, when you read the same sample, even they have the structure issue, it should be less than 0.1 difference you can see. So that's why it's more repeatable and higher accuracy. The only thing is when you need to send for service, I'm sorry that the local service dealer may not able to service, because it requires a higher or much more specific environments to service the device. So the main difference between the 78 and 7860 is only the inter-instrument agreement. And then if you compare against the CI7 as well as the 7008, so 7-800 will be exactly the same, but it will come along with the extra aperture, which is 25, 70, 10, and 6. Compared to the old one, either this is the 25 or 10, but you don't have the 17, you don't have the 6 millimeter aperture plate. Besides of that, compared to the older legacy device, they can do the total transmission in different aperture as well. So that's why this is the newer features on the 7.8, which is the older device cannot do. That's why you can measure the smaller samples in the transmission mode as well. Okay. So, coming slide, this is only the instrument options or the optional features you need to look at it. So, all the devices standardly come with the 400 nanometer UV color filter. If you need the 420, 460, you need to purchase the extra. And then regarding on the reflectance aperture, it depends on this is a 7.6 or this is a 7-800 because they come with either 3 aperture plate or 4 aperture plate. So for 7.6, if you need 17 mm or 3.5, you need to purchase the extra. So why 17 millimeter is the aperture is another option for the 7.6 because mainly when we work in the textile market, we try to have the similar aperture size compared against the data color one. So 17 millimeter is the most common used one. That's why if you look at the 7.8, they will come with the 17 millimeter, but not on the 7.6. So compare again the 7008 transmission kit now is not come along with it, so it's an optional purchase as well. So if you need to measure transmission, then you have to look for the optional kits. Either this is for 7.6 and 7.8 because 7.6 will have one aperture less, which is 17 mm as well. So you have to pay attention on the part number. So which model you're looking for the transmission kit. And then after that, you have different kind of the rig and jigs. You have the control cells, you have the transmission performer holder, you have the glass aperture, all those things. In the later presentation from Namashi, he will also cover part of it to show you what are those. And if possible, we'll try to tell you how to run and how to utilize on that. So what's the main changes? So if you make it as a summary, we have the accessory drawer now. We also have the adjusted tempering sample arm. So if you look at the 7008, look at the i5, i7. So the 7008 is by the spring. i5, i7 is used the tempering sample arms. But after a certain time of use, if it's getting too loose, then you cannot fix it. If you want to make sure this is the proper one, you may need to change. But on the CI7H series, you can just remove it. There's a small screw you can adjust by yourself as well. So that's why you, instead of buying a new one, actually you can do the adjustment by yourself. What else they changed is they utilize the same mounting hole, same as the i5, i7. So it means if you have the old rig and jigs from the i5, i7, most of it they can put it back on the 7.8 series as well. So you don't need to purchase a new set as long as you already have the i5 and i7 one. Except the orange juice plate is different. Okay, so this is one of the different things you need to pay attention. On the back strap, they do utilize the concept like the 7008. They will have a notch to make sure you are really hook it correctly on the device when you present or when you perform the black calibration, the black strap calibration. Then the connection and the power switch. So we like the switch on the 7008. That's why we utilize the same instead of add on the transformer from the power connector. So everything is built into the device. That's why you just need to have the main switch and direct cable to the device. For the connection, now we all change to the USB connection. No more RS-232. Besides of that, at the back of the connection, you also can hook it up with the optional video as well as the foot pedal as well. So if you like to use the foot pedal for the measurement because you're holding on the big samples, you have no hands, extra hands on touching the laptop, you can add on the foot pedal just like the impeller tracks. Use the foot pedal to trigger the measurements. And we changed the aperture detection by camera. So compared to the i5, i7, it will be much better because the old one is using by the sensor point. So we also got customer complaint after certain use they keep changing, the sensor point is become too weak, they cannot sense their aperture. Okay, so this is all kind of the changes on the 7X series. In terms of the optics, the 7X series will be same or similar to the 7008, which is the direct lighting path. No more mirror sitting in front, not sitting behind. So the optics, they based on the zoom lens, they can pick up much correctly. So this is we utilize the 07008 rather than we just based on the i5, i7s to change the optics. That's why we can put it, we can have a better readability and backward data compatibility. Just now we mentioned, okay, 3.5 millimeter aperture. So if I don't have it, can I measure 3.5? We still can utilize the over illumination, which is you set the lens to be 3.5, aperture putting on the bigger one, which is a 6 or 10 or 17. Because once you activate the over illumination, there will be a target reticle to be pointing out. So from the slide, you can see it. So when I put on 25, you don't see anything. But when you activate the lens to be the 10 millimeter, you will see they will show you where is the measurement point exactly on the aperture. It won't be really in the center, but you know that this is where I'm going to measure it. So you can adjust the sample until this is fit well into the reticle. So it will be the same when you activate the 3.5 millimeter on the 6 millimeter aperture or the 10 millimeter aperture. Then they will tell you where will be the tiny 3.5 they're going to measure it. I do my own experiments long time ago. I have the color samples. I just target my 3.5 in the center, but surrounding they have different colors. They just purely to pick up the color inside the reticle. That's why I see this is it kind of the features we can utilize is now you always need to change the plate because we know that changing the aperture is quite a clumsy things. You need to pull out the magnet, you need to take it out. Sometimes people will drop it, sometimes you may put the fingerprint on the aperture. So if I can utilize the target reticle features, it will be cool or easier for the operator as well. So the reflections, so we do have some difference on the transmission I mentioned before. So you can see the compartment in the transmission is much bigger now. So even you have a big piece of the sample, like on the video, on the presentation here, you can easily to slot in because you have the wider room for the transmission sample. And then they do have the preview on the laser target. The only thing is you may need to dimmer the room, you will see the laser easier. And then on the transmission plat, they do have the ring, which is totally is the barium one. That's why they come up the plat. I don't have the full one to show you. They used to have the one which is the complete aperture, which is coated with the barium. Okay, so this is the changes on the transmission on the 7X series. So further down we look at, okay, what will be the change, how we see the front panel. So now we all switch into the LED signal panels. So from the LED you can easily to recognize, okay, what lens and what apertures you're putting on. Are you measuring on the specular component, include and exclude, or you can notify. I especially put it here is the calibration on the UV. So on my UV here, no, you can see the calibration change to red means the Spectro is not calibrated. But sometimes when you see the calibration not turn to red, I already calibrated my Spectro, but how come it's changed to the amber or orange light? Then this is related to the UV energy is not being calibrated by a monthly base. So it means they give you kind of the signal to telling you that it's time to recalibrate your UV. If you want to measure UV included or UV, actually it's not UV included, UV calibrated. So to remind you, okay, when you measure UV D65, make sure your calibration is right. So that's why it's not red, it's not expired. It's just the UV calibration expired to remind you, please go to recalibrate your UV. Okay, so this is the small signal features on the 7800, the 7X series. So instead on the hardware itself, so something changes on the software as well. So if you go to the calibration mode, you can switch the device to have different type of the flash. You can have the normal flash, which is the 8 times flashes. You will hear just for the single measurements. Of course, you also can change to the single flash measurement as well, because some sample is the photo sensitive. So if you have some of the sample is something like this, I just prefer to have a single flash, just flash and take the measurements. You also can allow to change the device into single flash, or you can change to the high precisions, which is the 16 flashes, same as the i5, i7. You can have the single flash or the double flashes. On the device, on the software, the next thing changes is the UV calibration. You can select which one of the UV cutoff filter you want to apply. But of course, it depends on do you have the proper filter to be purchased on your device. So the standard filter will be 400, 420, 460 will be the optional filter. So when you're going to use the 420 and 460, one is for the paper and one is for the textile washing detergents. So this is special needs. So that's why we put it, this is optional, it's not come as the standard. And when you run the UV calibration, you also can have the option to say, I want to run it based on the specular component include or exclude mode. So that's why we have a more setup on the UV calibration. The last slide, I want to show you what is the last thing, the enhancement on the eye control software. They come with the digital signature as well as the temperature and humidity sensor information when you do the measurement. This is the sensor is not related to the sample, it's only the environment related to the spectral. So take notes, this is not the sample's temperature or the humidity, it's only the environment, the spectral temperature and the spectral humidity. So when you want to trace the color difference, how come today I measured it, it's passed, tomorrow it's fell. Sometimes it may be related to the environment changes as well. So we just give you extra information on the temperature and the humidity. And the last thing is you also can switch the measurements to have aligned with the CIE, which is from 360 all the way to 780 nanometer. But this is only available on the CI 78 or 7800 or 7860 device. So this is some of the difference and changes on the hardware. Okay, so this is the last piece from the benchtop. So let me quit the presentation first. Then if you have a question, you can come and ask. Okay.
Hi
Patsy,
everyone. It's Puvan here.
So,
I think
yeah.
we have another slot which Namashi is going to do on Rick and Jigs for another 15 minutes. But I think we overshot the time quite a bit. So is everyone okay to continue, or should we schedule it or slot it in another session? So what say everyone? Just let's take a... Hi guys.
Okay,
It's okay, Pufang.
So what, can everyone be in the call for another 15 minutes?
15 minutes. So,
Or should we have another session? Is it too much already for today? Hello.
Sorry,
Any
for
feedback?
me, I have other meeting, so maybe I will follow up from the local. Should be okay.
For me, it's okay, but I see some question on the message.
Yeah, so maybe we just take the questions first. Is that okay with everyone? And then have the Namashi session for another day?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Patsy, the question, I will start with the Krishna. Krishna is asking, what is the benefit of spectral range by extending up to 780 nanometer.
Okay, this one actually is aligned with the CIE recommendation, but if you look at the data color spectral, they never measure anything after 700. They really cut off of the 700, but we do see some color changes on the infrared side. So it will be good to measure the small range of the infrared, because certain samples may have these properties, but so far I don't really see many people using that. But we just try to put it, this is the CIE recommendation, so in order to fulfill the requirement, so this is one of the changes on the device. It's only on the 7800, about not on the 76, not even on the 75.
Okay. The next question is from Hetanto. What is the significant point besides discontinued product and no longer support for service to tell the customer in order to upgrade their CI5 and CI7, since the specs comparison with CI7X, 76 or 78 almost same, except the preview camera and humidity temperatures sensors?
Okay.
Patsy, I am hearing your voice is very low. Is it the same with others?
I will put it, okay, no matter what, once you discontinue the service, customer definitely have to look for a new device. So I would rather to say, okay, what kind of the spec can fulfill the customer requirement, because if I'm utilized for global data communication in the textile, so can I go for the 7.5? Can I go for the 7.6? Even I want to, I know in terms of the budget wise, in terms of the price wise, which is lower. But when you talk about the global data communication, certain brands or the specifier, they will specific, I need to have the top range on the model from the producer. It can be from the X-Ray, had to be 7000A, or had to be the 7800 or even higher. Or when you work with the data color, they weren't allowed to use the 500 as well. So it had to be on the top model 800. So I will put it when you have the discontinuous product. So your device, no matter what, is already used for at least 8 over 10 years. It's about time to change. Okay, so this is my answer. Or anyone else have some comments on this one? Or from sales as well?
One more question, Patsy. One more question from Elsa. For the fluorescent color, is there any improvement using CI76 series compared to the previous one?
Improvement using compared to the previous one. No, if you look at the fluorescent color, okay, don't mix up the fluorescent color as well as the optical brightening. When we have the UV calibrated, this is really targeted for the white sample. We want to make sure we have correct energy, correct amount of energy on the UV to activate the optical brightening on the white. But when you talk about the fluorescent colors, the tricky part is what is the lamp intensity. So I have single flash on the 7000, which is by the pulsing one. I have the multi-flashes on the 7800. Will they get a similar one? Somehow they may not, because the activate is not just by the UV energy, they also absorb from the visible spectrum. So I can tell you, this is also one of the issues from the data color. They have 600, they have the 800. By right, the design, everything inside is almost the same. But when they read the fluorescent color, they have a huge difference because they change the board. The energy level on the lamp is different. End up, they cannot compare the fluorescent colors they have. So the best practice when we work on the fluorescent color had to be stick with the model. So if you have the 7008, the better one will still work with the 7000 because the light intensity is different. I do know this is the argument, but when you talk about the fluorescent, are you using the same tolerance setup, same as the most of the colors, say 0.8 delta E? Probably no, because the fluorescent color somehow you don't really see the difference by your naked eyes. Even you tell the color difference is 2.5. So that's why they used to have a bigger tolerance in terms of the measurement data. So I cannot say this is any improvement, but it is really a limitation into the spectral. We have a discussion with US before. They claim it, if you want to have a proper fluorescent color measurements, you need to control the light, the specific light intensity on each of the fluorescent. Like when I work with the orange is activated by which particular spectrum of the wavelength, the light. We need to adjust and then maintain that part, then you can get that correct measurement. So this is something out of the visible color control. So I know I cannot answer your question completely, but this is a limitation on all the standard normal color visible spectrum. I put it this way. Okay. Do we have camera preview facility in the CI6? CI6 doesn't have the camera preview because they come with the target view, the foot. So it's a different needs. So they don't come with the camera preview on the CI6 series.
Patsy, that is already addressed. I sent them the message to Krishna and Shushank.
Yeah. So this is all my answer. If you really have other questions, I haven't addressed or answer you. Don't mind to drop me an email.
Yeah, Patsy, excuse me, Patsy, because it's taking longer time. I just want to ask everyone, we have a mixed answer from our guests, from our dealers. Some said we can continue, some said we cannot, we just reschedule this for another time. Now, so some of these are carry on. So we have a mixed response from all of our guests. So 50-50. It's a very difficult decision because it's a 50-50. I see this. For the next topic will be rigs and jigs. Okay. And maybe I think we will need also the response from you. Probably we need to cover again, especially on the QC part of the CI78 Patsy. Maybe we need to repeat that part. I think it would be best for us to redo this where we can get more focus with regards to 7800 and then we go to the rigs and jigs. Is that okay? That will be another 1 hour sometime next week.
Yes, Irene, that's better because it's already late for some of them. Probably, yes, we can reschedule in coming week we can cover the rigs and jigs with another session. Either maybe with the plastics or paints or maybe
All right, okay. Patsy, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
And for the rest of the team? Okay, so again, I'm
okay.
thankful. Okay. I'm really thankful for our partners, for our dealers who really endure this more than 2 hours. We do hope that you have learned, pick up something new from us. But we will continue doing this. We will getting another invitation for more in-depth, more specific topic, especially for those who are send us some requests, and this will be invitation. You will getting it from our sales manager. So again, thank you everyone. We will close our session for the meantime. And again, some of you, we hope to see you next week for a more in-depth topic. You will get it an invitation from us. Okay? So thank you everyone. Thank you very much. See you again.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
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 Thank you.